Bruchim Abayim. B'Shem Hashem Nasem and Atzliach. We're beginning B'Shah Toiva, the first Likut in Sefer Likkutei Dibburim of the Frierdiker Rebbe, which begins with a Farbrengen. The Frierdiker Rebbe Farbrengen Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah Tafresh Tzaddik Gimel in Riga in Latvia. This is after the Frierdiker Rebbe was actually saved with the Shtadlos of Mordechai Dubin, which was part of the Sem HaLatvi, the Latvian parliament. And Frierdiker Rebbe Farbrengen Shmini Atzeres by night in the Sukkah and began the theme. The discussion was about Machshava Mo'elis, that when one thinks in a positive light about his friend actually derives benefit from it, and these thoughts itself are already a beginning of something that starts taking place within this world, interestingly enough. Dr. Frierdiker Rebbe, let's see it inside. Machshava Mo'elis, a machshava actually takes effect and it helps, it benefits a person. Hine, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, in addition to the fact that's known, that it's the first levush of the nefesh, which means in Tanya we learn extensively that the machshava, or chachma, that's the first garb that the nefesh, the spiritual soul, the neshama, when it wants to express itself into our physical experience, its first vessel to do so is through the machshava. It's the most refined, lofty way we can relate to. In addition, it's also levush hama'uchad. It's not just a regular garb that the nefesh, so to speak, encloses itself in. It's also a levush that's united with the nefesh. They're continuously connected. It means the nefesh continuously flows into thoughts and into formulating oisius of a machshava. So in addition to that uniqueness that the koach machshava has, he says you should know machshava mo'elis. It actually helps, and it's negea lamaisa. It's a practical thing. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, thinking about another person with a good machshava ve'iyunis, in depth, delving into it, this alone is an inyan of maisa. However, it's a practical act in the world of machshava, and it still requires afterwards hishtalshlus. It should flow down into speech and actual action in the world of Maisa. But in the realm of machshavos, you have taken action by investing that time and thought. The Frierdiker Rebbe continued discussing by the Farbrengen together with the people there about the young Anash that are still in Russia, and they mentioned names of a few of the Tmimim and the Talmidim that were there, and Anash, just to put things in perspective. In Russia, Chassidim were still being dispatched to teach Yiddishkeit to children, and they were under the communist regime, and we're talking about they were arrested, sent away, being killed, being replaced, and obviously these are the thoughts that are going through the fellow Chassidim that did managed to get out of Russia with the Frierdiker Rebbe or afterwards and made their way to this Farbrengen in Riga. So the Frierdiker Rebbe, after that discussion, continued and said, a machshava, thought, has no boundaries. There are no partitions that can stop it from reaching back into Russia, for example. Any time and at any place you can reach where the machshava wants to and is meant to reach. So one of the people sitting around by this Farbrengen, which evidently was a person that had recently left Russia, said to the Frierdiker Rebbe, "On was hat jener from them?" It's good that your mind can reach wherever it wants and can think about another person, but what does he gain from it? Frierdiker Rebbe responded, "Gor afula," in a full measure. After a while, it seems like either silence, the Frierdiker Rebbe said, "And where were you last Chag HaSukkos?" indicating and hinting to the fact that you were able to be set free from Russia was due to the fact that Chassidim or the Rebbe thought of you. Ois Beis, which is now it's the next night, it's Simchas Torah, so this is obviously if I bring in indoors already, the shul. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, it's a davar yadua muchlat. It's known and it's accepted as fact that machshava mo'elis, and he's continuing with the theme of the first ois of yesterday's Farbrengen, that what a person thinks essentially is already laying the groundwork, the foundation for a bepoil, which will ultimately come. That's granted. He says, however, that's going to come about only through a certain hishtalshelus, which means a cause and effect and a whole process. However, we all know that machshavas are the foundation that you're laying, and that is the foundation to what's going to come afterwards. So you have already done something. Now the Frierdiker Rebbe is going to up it a notch and says, "Miruba mida toiva mimida puranos." The simple understanding is that when we find in Chazal that this and this is the effect of that aveira or that negative act, how much more so if you do this in the positive, it has tenfold more powerful effect. So the Frierdiker Rebbe is going to refine this al pi pnimis and yanim and says, you should know, he's going to unpack the words midas puranos to mean the midas, which means levushim, which bring forth puranos, negative. So in this regard, it's going to be machshavos that bring forth bad, machshavos and hiruri aveira, which we know that a machshava zara or hiruri aveira, lustful thoughts, can cause zera levatala, and they bring a churban ruchni on a person, as well as a churban begashmis, as the Rambam says. So how much more so when you have positive thoughts about another yid, that they're midas toivois, midas meaning in this regard, the Frierdiker Rebbe is going to explain they're levushim, meaning machshavos and dibburim, that are toivim, they bring and cause good tenfold more. So it's like the Frierdiker Rebbe. Meruv midas toivim midas puranos. Midas means levushim, and he proves it from two psukim that it says, we say it in the Parsha of Trumas Hadeshin every morning in Karbanis, V'lava shakoyin midoi bad, and midoi is his clothing of bad. V'yilba Shaul David Madav, Shaul dressed David in Madav, which are his clothing, as Rashi explains there. And we know in current Lashon, in current Hebrew, Madim is a uniform. So Midas Puranos means the Pirush is levushim, like thoughts, that bring forth Puranos, which are the Machshavas and Hirurim Roim. That this, in addition to the fact that it takes down the Dmus, the Tzir of a Yid, that means spiritually his nefesh can shine properly. In addition, it also piles Chalishos Briusai. It damages his health till it brings Rahman al-Itzlan churban and destruction of his body. Zakta Frierdiker Rebbe, Meruba Mida Taiva, how much more so in the positive regard, that Midas Taivas are levushim that bring good, and this includes thoughts of Torah and Avodah, and specifically his boinanos, when one meditates deeply, in not just thinking in Torah, nor areintrachten, nicht nur trachten, nor areintrachten in them, till it brings a poil mamish. In the world of thought, he draws it all the way down. So in the same vein, not only in Torah, but also about a friend. So machshava helps also when it gets to azulas, to an other. That with a machshava, you can help another person. And be'ikar, when it's a machshava iyunis, one applies himself deeply to think good about his friend or how he's going to help his friend. That is a yisoid to poil. It's a yisoid that's already can be translated into cash, ultimately and already now to a certain degree. And now the Frierdiker Rebbe is going to, in Ois Gimel, bring a note that Reb Pinchas Karitzer, Reb Pinchas Shapiro, the father of the famous Slavita brothers, printers, he was a Talmud of the Mizritcher Magid, and a note, a zettel that he wrote to the Mizritcher Magid on Erev Sukkos Tavkov Chaf Alef, which read the following: L'Rava Magid Nishmos Eden, Roiv Toido L'Chak, tremendous or great thanks to the Rebbe, Mizritcher Magid, for the fact that you remembered and carried me in your thoughts on the Heilige Day of in your holy thoughts on the day of Yom Kippur. And the Rebbe should know that in that moment that I merited coming up in the Rebbe's mind, in his memory, in his zikaron, right away I felt it over here. That's the zettel. Now the Frierdiker Rebbe is going to heavily unpack this and point out that the truth is, in the simple reading, this is not a chiddush. The fact that one person can think of another person and he feels it. There's something much deeper that was conveyed here than just the fact that he felt it. Let's see it inside. Der Inyi darfen verstehen, says the Frierdiker Rebbe. We have to understand what the pneumius of this zettel was, because the simple reading of it is not a madrega nefla. It's not such a great level. Why is it not such a great level? So the Frierdiker Rebbe is going to bring 4 levels of expressing love, which is really an emotional connection between two people, and it's a connection. And there's ways to express that connection, and there's levels within it. Dr. Friedrich Rebbe. In revealing love, there are various levels and layers. According to the levels of the light, so to speak, of Ava that one wants to express, based on that, the tnuah, means the movement in which it's going to be expressed, it's going to be revealed. The kelim that he has, the vessels he's going to use to express. Namely, the first level of Kli Ava, to express love, is reaching out one's hand, sticking it out to greet someone with a handshake. It's called Nesinas Shalom, giving Shalom and receiving Shalom. Even though it's seemingly just an external thing, and it's the way it's common in this world, that when one meets another, you just stick out your hand. Each one gives his partner his hand, and there seemingly is no emotion of love being transferred from one to another. It's just a symbolic of the fact that they know each other. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, you should know the fact that it became external hat gemacht die weltige Kaltkeit. This was caused by the worldly coldness. That turned it into, so to speak, a routine and transactional thing. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, Amol, once upon a time, is the Praster Shalom Aleichem. The simple Shalom Aleichem was a totally different one, and it was a true one. It was a clean one, an emes arena. Amol is given anders, says the Friedrich Rebbe. Once it was different. The emes was a matbea malachas. Truth, in general, emes, was a currency that was found, was common. He says in matbeas there are also levels, which means, like we'll see, in emes there are also different various levels of what's being expressed. Friedrich Rebbe says, just like in coins there are differences. There's a tzveier, which is a very small coin, or a pitak, which seems to be a little bit of bigger value, a ruble, and more. Aber a tzveier emes, he says, but that too is a real too, even if it's a small amount, but it's real. And is taki given emes, so being that small coin is a true coin, it's emes, and same too. This gesture was once upon a time a real expression of a very low, maybe caliber of expression of love, but it was an expression of love. Today, says the Friedrich Rebbe, so one second, so Dr. Friedrich Rebbe, Mezalein given emes, once upon a time, the people themselves were emes. B'meila, the simple Shalom Aleichem, and Aleichem Shalom was also emes. One was on his own, himself was warm. So the mitvach ticker, the Wednesday, so to speak, Shalom Aleichem and Aleichem Shalom was also a warm one. When two Yidden met and they told each other Shalom Aleichem and Aleichem Shalom, it had an internal chayis primi, an internal sense of vitality, and there was a connection, a bond that was there's electricity between them. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, however, the Weltige Anachas, the approach and the style of the world that brought in a certain order and fashion and consistent, manner in the style of life in Darkei HaChaim. However, it also brought kaltkeit, coldness, and a lack of emes, a heder emes, and sometimes beyond that as well, even sheker. In which cases, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom HaSheker, says the Friedrich Rebbe, in the regular common Shalom Aleichem today, you can oftentimes, or says the Friedrich Rebbe, or maybe even most of the time, you can get a feel of Gei Gesund, go Gesund Heit already. And that means the Shalom Aleichem is not really greeting, as in greeting him in and drawing him closer to you and expressing closeness. Rather, it's let's get over with this and let you move on with your day and let me move on with mine. Aber the Torah de Shalom Aleichem, says the Friedrich Rebbe, of a mol, the mol Shalom Aleichem was a kli, was a vessel to Ava. So this is the first level. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, this is only the first level of Ava. The second notch higher, the second level of Ava, was when two friends met each other, two people that love each other. They met, then the expression of love was expressed also with a kush, which is also an expression of the light of Ava, but in a higher form than it is just with a handshake. The third, higher than this, is when they actually spend time discussing and sharing their love and their appreciation As you see b'muchash, says the Friedrich Rebbe, you can see in actuality, in real life, when two true loyal friends meet, they extensively talk between each other, they share with each other their lives, and tell each other all that's going on in their lives. So that's the third level. They actually share their experiences with each other, not just a gesture, I'm within my world, I appreciate you, so I give you a handshake, of course, but really sharing their lives. A level higher than that is one that it can't even be expressed in talking between each other. Because the Dibbur, words and speech, lo yichilenu, won't be able to encapsulate. Words, Wörter seien zu trocken, zu können herausgeben der innerlichen Liebschaftsgefühl. Words are too dry to be able to express the inner feeling of love that he has. And therefore it's only expressed by their eyes locking. They're looking at each other and can't speak. I wrote a mashal to the kids when I was teaching it. I said, you see a bar mitzvah boy, the child has so much to thank his father for. But it doesn't, when does it happen? When he writes him a note on and leaves on his desk by PTA. Otherwise, when does he express his appreciation for all his father does for him? I said, if you look by the bar mitzvah dance, usually the father and the son are put on the shoulders right away, and they're rejoicing together. They're just looking in each other's face, and that's expressing their connection, their deep connection. You see it also with the chassan and his parents when they're dancing. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, all this are oifane ava. These are revealed forms of love, and the close union of ava is what is generally love. It's the connection and the bonding, becoming one. And these are different ways of becoming one. It's becoming one with another person on various layers, realms. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, however, there is a deeper iskashos than this, which is connection b'machshava. Now he's circling back to what we began this farbrengen. When one feels the other person as if they're standing in front of him, he's not even meeting his friend. He's connecting with him in his mind, and he's thinking about him so deeply as if that person is right before him. One sees his friend. That's the way it is b'machshava, because as the Friedrich Rebbe says, as I said earlier, there's no inyan of richuk makam. Place doesn't separate when you're using the refined tool of machshava. And one feels his friend, says the Friedrich Rebbe, similar to what we find by the friends of Eov. He had money, he had a family, he had success, and then Sarah started to befall him. He lost all his money, his children, and his friends came on their own. They felt, even though they were in far places, they felt each other. And all this was because it is included in midos. They were bali midos toivos, machshavas that brought. He says the Friedrich Rebbe, you should know that this machshava is not even yet the union of seichel. It's midos toivos, as the Friedrich Rebbe said earlier. It's midos, it's levushim that bring good, but it's an emotional connection. Friedrich Rebbe, this is like the fifth level. Now the Friedrich Rebbe is going to say that you should know, despite the fact that this is very, very praiseworthy, and it's a tall order, you should know this isn't the top. What's expressed by the note of the Pinchas Karitza to Rav Magid is a notch higher. What could be higher than these pure forms of connection, even without even being in person near each other, just connecting the machshava to another person? Says the Friedrich Rebbe, all this we mentioned till now is the beauty of midos, which means emotions. And these midos are the milas of a human being. However, being that they are midos, at the end of the day, they're emotions, and emotions exist also by animals. So therefore, this expression of the beauty of midos is not yet the full expression and power of what a human, the koiches a human was granted to be able to connect to another person. And he says the shleimus amiti of what is the shleimus amiti is the mila that a person has with another person. We're going to see has to take place in the realm of seichel itself, not just emotion. And now first the Friedrich Rebbe prefaces and gives a mashal of why it's not the top of the line. And he says, imagine somebody that's a tremendously rich person. Severe Asher Muflag. So even his barn, his stable for his livestock or for his horses. So it's also obviously good and beautiful and in a very, spacious. However, at the end of the day, it's a barn for his animals. It's not his home. It's not going to express his greatness. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, in the same regard, emotions, even when they're the most refined and highest in caliber, however, that isn't the tachlis, the shleimus of a person yet. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, and therefore, now we can understand. When Reb Pinchas Kartzer wrote to Rav Magid, that in the moment that Rav Magid brought me into his thoughts, I felt it when I was far away. This itself, kipshuta, is not yet a pella, assuming this is just an emotion. And obviously one can understand that that's not what he was writing to Rav Magid, that I attained the highest level in emotions. That's not a darga. The Friedrich Rebbe says, I don't want to make this smaller. Adrabah, being that our seichel is too small to understand their words, therefore it's incumbent upon us to try to understand and separate it and figure out each thing. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, the real reason why he wrote this to Rabbi Magid was because at that point the Alter Rebbe has already begun revealing his derech in Avodas Hashem, the derech that he started serving the Eibishter with and paving the path for everybody. And what did Alter Rebbe accomplish with Chabad, which is Moichin? That b'machshava about another person, wherever he is, you can be with him, not just affect him, not just connect with him, be there with him. And that's the pirush machshava iyunis, says the Friedrich Rebbe. This is what I mean at the beginning when I say machshava ma'elis, when it's a deep thought about the other person. That such a deep thought is a yisod l'poil. With machshava, you can help that other person get out of his situation. Begashmius uberuchnius. You can place yourself near him to elevate him, to help him. And this is, says the Friedrich Rebbe, what Reb Pinchas Kartzer was writing to the Alter Rebbe. That in that moment, that the Mezritcher Magid brought him up in his thoughts and his zikaron, he felt it. The afla is not that he felt it. The afla is that with that the Rav Magid brought him up in his mind, he poiled something. He actually caused an effect by Reb Pinchas Kartzer as if he was there. Because with machshava, you help another person come out of his state, his mekoimoy and matzavoy begashmis and beruchnius. So it seems like the machshava that the Friedrich Rebbe is referring to, machshava iyunis, is not just thinking about the milus of that person and emotionally connecting to him, just that you're not near him, so it's taking place in your mind. Rather, it's actually unpacking what this person is, a neshama, and actually going there with your mind, with your seichel, as opposed to just getting emotional far away within your picturesque brain. Ois Daled, says the Friedrich Rebbe, from every ois and word in Torah and Tefillah, a malach is created. And now the Friedrich Rebbe, being that it's the Simchas Torah, and there are Yidden far away in Russia on Mesiras Nefesh celebrating with the Torah, the Friedrich Rebbe is mamash going to take us on a journey to envision and to appreciate the malachim that are created from a Simchas Torah of a farukta farvarfna Yid sitting somewhere in a basement in Russia looking for a minyan and trying to celebrate this Yom Tov of Simchas Torah. Zak the Friedrich Rebbe, b'yamim ne'roim, in the awesome days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So there's Kain Yirbu 17 million Yidden that daven and say Tehillim, they learn and they do Ma'asim Tovim, that from all this are created malachim. In from him la yirid in Shemayim is obviously like a marketplace from all these malachim coming up, being created, appearing l'mayla. And there it says in Friedrich Rebbe, they come full platoons and encampments of malachim, a machna malachim from each medina, from each country. And from those, it says the Friedrich Rebbe, that they're created from the current tefillos and the gishrein, the cries of Kadosh Ata. This is Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur the Friedrich Rebbe is referring to. And of Chen Tein Pachtecha, and V'simloich, crowning the Eibishter as king, and place your fear in the hearts of all your creations, and they says kadosh and loichal kula. You should reign over the entire world, and a sana take of kedushas hayom chulu v'chulu. It says the Frierdiker Rebbe, from every Medina, the Kadosh Ata and the Vesimloich, these cries are different, which obviously depends on the current situation in that Medina, what the people are going through. That's the emotions they infuse in their words. The Kadosh Ata and the Vesimloich of Russia, says for the people of Russia and the Malachim created from there, make a machta gevaldiken roishim. It causes a tremendous impact. And mark. They make a mark. However, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, at the end of the day, it's a cry of pain. It's the tsar, the pain of the guf, and the perjury, it's the yisurim of the nefesh that they're going through, which are infused in their gishrein. However, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, when it comes to the simchas teira freilich malachim, the malachim, the happy malachim that are created, the Ata Reisa Malachim, and in some Hatakas it says the Sisu V'Simchu Malachim, from those songs. There, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Russian Malachim that are created, the Simchas Teira Russian Malachim, they take the first place, the Ersten art. The Frierdiker Rebbe describes step by step how they come about. As it's the Yid, by sich in the heim, a Yid is sitting alone in his house. In his house is finster, it's dark. He's a upgerissener. He's ripped off. He's out of place, and he's disconnected. A hungriker. He's hungry. Die Weib und Kinder abgeschwacht zerbrochen. His wife and his children are weakened and broken. His heart is crying about his own state and about them. And he's chas v'shalom, like he's miyush. He gives up on the fact that it's going to become better. In this current state, all of a sudden he reminds himself that today is Simchas Teira. All of a sudden a beacon, a ray of the light of the Freiliche Zechroinus, the joyous memories, just runs through him like a blitz, like a lightning, like a bolt. And he becomes emotional, overwhelmed, and he runs to the Beis Medrash to do a kafis, which parenthetically is placing himself in danger. The Frierdiker Rebbe doesn't mention this. Throwing himself into the redel, the dancing circle. And he says, Elokei ruchos hashiana, boichen levavos hatzlichana, goyel chazak aneinu. And he chaptzachon, he grabs, takes hold of the Eitz Chaim of a Sefer Torah, and he screams, Sizu v'simchu v'simchas Torah. These malachim, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, is what he's referring to earlier, take first place. He says, At these Yidden, not only are all the malachim Maila jealous of them, the supernal malachim, even the neshamas hagvayos, the ultimate, the highest of neshamas, the neshamas of tzaddikim, neshamas kloliim, means neshamas that embody many neshamas, the neshamas of Nasiya Adar, neshamas datzilus, that are not even really in this world. They all are jealous of the tremendous Mesiras Nefesh, with the clean and clear tmimus, simplicity of emunah pshuta that shines through when the malachim created through his sisu v'simchu, or his ata reisa. The lashon he used was ata reisa. Now the Frierdiker Rebbe, there's a quote here. Azam Mesiras Nefesh Yid, such a Mesiras Nefesh Yid is precious. He's holy in all the olamais. And with Yidden, with these Yidden, we should go hakafas together with them. The Frierdiker Rebbe is now talking to the Farbrengen. We should try to connect with them, place ourselves in machshava yunis near them, and join them. When briru milsas machshava me'elis, the Frierdiker Rebbe says we should go together with them, and it's a clear thing that machshava will have an impact. It means it has a poil. Hashem Yisbarach, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Eibusher should take away all the bakashas and asayros rachmim. Hashem should take to himself all the bakashas, all the requests, and the arousal of divine compassion and kindness from the Eibusher, and he should free them bekarev soon from all their and our tzaras, and they should be able to fulfill Torah mitzvahs with their chachava within tremendous abundance and no oppression. And it says the Frierdiker Rebbe, and if some Seder Hagalus, it's needed, Chas v'Shalom, what was going on till now. Says the Friedrich Rebbe sets a challenge for the Eibishter, so the Eibishter should send Malachim. And we're already going to see what he's going to, so to speak, gain from it, as they have already shown when they came down here. As a famous story in the Midrashim brought of the Malachim that were sent down. They challenged and they came down to this world, Bnei Nephilim, and they fell and became from the biggest mushchasim in this world. Ois hey, in the year Tafresh Nun, says the Friedrich Rebbe, and he recounts, my father said, the Maimer Hayom Haras Olam. Today the world trembles, which is a Maimer generally affiliated with Rosh Hashanah. It was the middle of the Hemshech, it seems like a Tik'u, B'choy the Shofar of the year Tafresh Nun. And on Simchas Torah he teaches the following. Hayom Haras Olam. Hein zittert the Welt, the world trembles. And in Simchas Torah, after Kiddush, he said the following. And parenthetically, the Friedrich Rebbe points out that the Rebbe Rashab used to go into his mother to make Kiddush, the wife of the Rebbe Marash, Rebbetzin Rivka. And over there he would make a farbrengen. So at that farbrengen, he teached and he said, Rosh Hashanah le'is erev. Why is the world trembling? The world is a upgechalashta, so to speak. It's fainted. And azovi agechalashta zittert, like a person that fainted is trembling, and he's yearning for his life force to come back. That's what happens. Rosh Hashanah by night, that it's the Eibusha, so to speak, took away the chayes of the previous year, and the new chayes is yet to come through Tkiyah Shofar, by Yidden arousing and awakening a ratzon by the Eibusha to Mloich Olam Kulei. So the world is, so to speak, yearning and tracing. It's chalished, lost its strength and its vitality, and it's awaiting it to come back. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, but when does it really come back? The Rebbe Rashab explained in Simchas Torah, when the Yid make a Shachiyanu on the Torah, Baruch zich die Welt, the world calms down. Means obviously it does get some of the chayis on Rosh Hashanah. It gets the chayis when they blow shofar, but it's brought by Yom Hashishi that the world was trembling. Eretz Yarav Shakata. That initially, when the world was created, it was trembling because it didn't know if it's going to have a kiyum until Torah came and gave it a kiyum. Similarly, till Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah, the world fully calms down. Tai Ching Ayin, based on that Rashi and Bereshis.